A mansion?
Look at all those puppets. They seem almost alive.
Yeah, this looks like a haunted house. I hope that they move and attack us or something. That would be so cool.
Ugh. There is so much suffering here. They say that 1 in every 1,000 people is special, and 1 in every million, an unparalleled genius. Nazcal Mayorim is 1 in a billion. Since childhood, he showed an inordinate talent to create, a skill that surpassed even the greatest masters of the world. With such a gift, there was never any doubt that, if he wanted, he could have become anything that he desired. But Nazcal did not care for such things, for his only passion was the marionettes. When he was a little boy, his parents took him to a theater, where he saw for the first time what would become his obsession. These simple figures of wood and metal, artificial beings posing as people, fascinated him in an incomprehensible way. And it was then, at such an early age, he decided to devote his life to them. Year after year, Nazcal learned everything about their construction and handling, developing unique methods to give them more realism and mobility. With time, his works became incomparable, so perfect that it was difficult to distinguish them from living beings. His marionettes were valued as masterworks and appreciated everywhere. And only now, upon turning 25, is Nazcal truly pleased. Everyone recognizes that he is the greatest artist in the world.
Bearer of calamities, I felt your presence.
Lord Romeo?
Exet, are you kidding, babe? The damn Supreme Inquisitor here?
Shut up!
I am outside the building. Our forces, our armies, Nathaniel, the Inquisition, they are all here. I used all my power to create this gap that allows us to communicate, but it is unstable. We must be brief.
My lord, lady, she's dead. And the artifact is still missing. But it's just a matter of time before I...
Silence. What is happening is much more serious than you think. Far more than any of us ever thought. Just one person predicted it. And now we're too late. The whole world is in chaos. Many of the rules of reality are breaking. And this place is the source of everything.
I'm sorry, my lord. I don't understand.
The book you had to recover, the Biblos, was a collection of prophecies made by Herael Grimoire. They described certain conditions that would cause the end of the world. The object itself was unimportant. What mattered was the content. According to her omens, when a certain number of unique entities were reunited, they would bring about the end of all existence. For centuries, we have called these creatures the Messengers of the End, a suitable name for those who are considered the harbingers of the world's destruction. However, we never exactly understood all the intricacies of the prophecy, nor were able to locate all of the messengers. Until now.
My lord?
They are coming, bearer of calamities. Many are already here. This place is attracting the messengers to its core. We don't know how or why, but these creatures are meeting here for the first time. But we cannot enter. The tower is not in the same reality I am, where any of us are. Before me, there are only ruins and desolation. But you are already inside, which only means one thing. You are the last resort we have. You are my weapon, the darkness that devours darkness, my instrument of destruction. Find them, annihilate them, all of them. or the world will not see many more sunrises. We will try to stop them here before they arrive, but many will enter through the crevices between realities. Now go, Hunter of Shadows. You have much to do.
Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou, shithead Romeo? If that thing says something like, "It's dangerous to go alone," I will kill him.
Welcome to this, my humble room. My name is Velez. It is a pleasure for me to meet such distinguished guests. A monster without fate and a young lady who has lost everything. Calm down, you have nothing to fear. I'm not an enemy. Though I suppose I would not consider myself an ally either. I am neither a memory nor a guest of the tower. You could say I'm a simple intermediary.
He speaks the truth, baby. I feel no hostility from him. In fact, I don't feel anything from him at all.
I know, but I can't help being uneasy. There's something strangely familiar about him. Velez was your name, right? Excuse me if I was rude. The truth is that it's been a difficult day.
Do not worry, my dear. Under the circumstances, it's logical that you are confused. You're not the only one here who feels this way. If you mean the tower, it has many names, but I think that it would be appropriate to call it Arcane. A place where the real world and the dream are part of the same side of the coin. The chamber, as I told you before, is Labyrinthos, my humble home. Me? I'm just a mere intermediary between guests and the world. I am not allowed to interfere. That is what the rules of the existence dictate. I won't help you, nor will I stand in your way. If you are here, you were chosen. You, a monster without fate, and the one who has lost everything, you can choose. Choose what? Your eyes ask, even when your lips have not yet moved. Everything. There are no limits. Such is my task. You can obtain everything or nothing, as long as you exchange it for something of equal value. Of course, they, the same as you, are moving too. Many of them are also invited to Labyrinthos, or at least those who are real. But excuse me, I may have already said too much, and I should not ignore the rules. I couldn't say. There are rules, and my limits are inside this room. I can only say that this is an old story that is about to end, a tale that is just waiting for all the actors in the play to be placed where they belong. If what you seek is something material, I have for you a long list of artifacts that perhaps you may find interesting. In return, unless you have something more interesting, I'll be happy to use as currency the fragments of existence of those that you have destroyed.
The entity linked to this place is a psycho.
Traps. This is our best date ever!
I'm just a merchant, and if I had a name, I do not remember it now. Open this door, and I promise you that I'll know how to thank you.
The secrets, the passages, they echo in my head like screams. Stop them! Make them stop!
I have no importance. There is nothing I can do for you. My husband, he is imprisoned in this place. Free him.
Everything is confusing. I was a creator, the greatest of all, but I committed a sin. Now I have only what I deserve.
I am the one who devours everything. The one who stands over creation itself. I am the power.
I am nobody. I have never been. But somewhere in this prison is my wife. Free her. She will know how to reward you.
Blood. I only remember the blood. What kind of monster am I? No. Don't free me.
I am sorry, World Walkers. I have nothing to say. I am sorry, World Walkers.
So you really do have the ability to move between rooms in Arcane. They're definitely different from the rest.
You're the entity that we saw before in the central room.
Correct. But it would be better if you don't ask silly questions like who I am or what I'm doing here. I can't answer what I don't know.
You're different from the other shadows.
Because I have awareness of everything around me? You could say that.
I've seen more like you. They were locked in a prison. I tried to talk to them, but they were not lucid.
Nor will they ever be as long as they're there. For many of them, that's not where they belong. In their correct rooms, they would be more lucid, as you say.
So I just need to free them?
You can't release them. It would be impossible for you. The tower won't allow it. They're too entrenched in their memories.
And you think that some bars will be a huge impediment? Idiot.
What imprisons them may seem to be metal bars easy for you to bend and destroy. But I assure you, it's much more than that. Each place is a whole existence by itself. It's the very concept of a prison which contains them.
So there's no way?
I didn't say that. I said it was impossible for you. But why are you interested? Do you have some relationship with any of them?
A few seem to have relevant information for us.
Interesting. I think I'll help you with this. It may be worth contemplating what will happen.
Can you do it?
Every gate has an exit. Every prison a way out. Just as there are doors, there are also keys in the tower. I can open them. Here's one. It will open any door, but only one. Like I said, they're more in Arcane. You only need to find them. But it would be better if you were both very careful when choosing which prisoners to release. Not all of them tell the truth. Not everyone deserves to be imprisoned. Not everyone deserves to be freed. Choose well. It will bring consequences. And even if you find all the keys, in the end, one door will remain locked. Now go. I'm done talking.
Nazcal entered the hall where the Council of Brax was taking place. The greatest artists and creators of the world met once every decade under those walls. Different civilizations, even non-human creatures, were there to show the wonders they had created over the years. Naturally, only the very best could attend, those whose fame had crossed all frontiers. For many of them, just having been invited represented an honor, but to Nazcal, it was quite the opposite. They should feel honored by his attendance. The puppet master walked through the room, trying to pass unnoticed. He paid little attention to several uninspired works that only reminded him of why he was superior to everyone else. Nazcal smiled ruefully. Although he did not expect too much from others, he had wished to find something to at least rival with his talent. Lost in those thoughts, a distant word caught his attention. Someone had mentioned Gaudeamus, the creator of wonders, whose fame had reached even Nazcal's ears. Apparently, he had also been invited, and a group of people were talking to him not too far away. Interested by his fame, Nazcal approached him to share some anecdotes with a fellow genius. To his surprise, the legendary creator was much younger than he had expected, and was quick to shake his hand and exchange a polite greeting. Nazcal was about to ask about the works he was exhibiting in the council, when the whole room became silent. Everyone whispered that Gaudeamus had just arrived. At that moment, the confused Nazcal understood what they meant, and a chill of terror ran through his spine. The person he was talking with was not a living being, but a doll. Work of Gaudeamus was what he had heard the people say before. Even if it was only for a moment, the mere idea that he had not noticed such a thing overwhelmed the mind of the puppet master. Frantically, his eyes began to gaze closely at all the works exhibited by Gaudeamus. The mere sight of them burned his retinas, but at the same time, he was unable to look away. The feeling of anxiety that oppressed his chest grew until it became pain. He even had trouble breathing in the same room that stored such wonders. Unable to wait any more, he staggered out of the room and did not stop running until he was outside. Then, Nazcal cried and laughed as hard as he could. He had been blind all this time. In his egotism, he thought he was on top of the world when he was only standing on a small hill. Only in that moment did he realize that his work was far from having reached its full potential. That night would change his life completely. He would create greater works. He would surpass Gaudeamus, surpass them all. From that moment, his obsession would be perfection. They say that 1 in every 1,000 people is special, and 1 in every million, an unparalleled genius. Nascal Mayorin. Nascal entered the hall where the Council of... Nascal entered the hall where the Council of Brax was taking place.
Everything is confusing. I was a creator, the greatest of all.
I have no importance.
Nascal suddenly awoke. For months, he had been unable to sleep well, and that night had been particularly bad, something which he blamed on the emotion of being so close to finishing his work. Washing his face, he noticed how terrible he looked in the mirror, and thought that very soon he would have to be ready to return to society. Nascal was unsure of how much time had passed since he had visited the Council of Brax. After that night, he invested his vast fortune in creating a secluded mansion away from the civilized world. A huge and well-equipped workshop in which he could devote body and soul to his work, free from distractions. It had been years, or maybe even decades, since the last time he had contact with another human being. But loneliness meant little to him. All that mattered was that he was close to reaching his goal. Over the years, just improving his creative talent wasn't enough for Nascal. His goal was much higher. He devoted day after day to research the same process Gaudemus developed to make his works, becoming an unrivaled expert in lost science and supernatural rituals. With such unusual tools, he managed to create countless animated puppets, which were able to move by themselves, the very ones that now protected his mansion and took care of its maintenance. But they were all just prototypes for his definitive work, the ultimate puppet. An artificial being so perfect, it would not be aware that it was not alive. Nascal solemnly went down to the heart of his workshop, where his most valued masterpiece waited for him. On the table was a body, Any observer would think without a doubt that it was a true human being. It had the same appearance as its creator, as identical as 2 drops of water. The master puppeteer smiled. In his next encounter with Gaudamus, it would be his marionette that greeted him. An ironic joke that only he would be able to understand. After reviewing the status of the project for hours, Nascal determined that it was only a matter of days until it was finished. Only a few pieces were missing, which should be stored in his secondary workshop. With unusual anxiety, he walked to the north wing in search of them. It had been a long time since he had visited that area of the mansion, and he was not even really sure of why he stopped going there. Upon entering the room, the master puppeteer was struck by the terrible state of the place. He didn't remember having forsaken it for so long. Without giving it too much thought, Nascal walked to where the pieces were stored, but he saw something in his way which puzzled him. There, sitting in the workshop, was a corpse, holding the parts Nascal had come for. His flesh, rotted and dried, was in pretty bad shape, suggesting that it had been in that place for a long time. Surprised, Nascal approached to examine the body, but before he could do so, the puppet master became completely paralyzed with terror. Because, despite being worn and wasted, there was no doubt. The corpse had exactly the same face as him.
You, Azrael!
What was a human being? What exactly was he? Nascal didn't know for how long, years perhaps. He had asked the same questions without finding an answer. Was the dead body in the workshop the real Nascal? But if it was, why did it hold the parts needed to complete the project? The puppet master had his body analyzed several times over the years, trying to find something that could help him determine if he was a man or marionette. In his research, Nascal severed some of his limbs, replacing them with metal implants, an irony that even he could see. Desperate, he began to consider using other humans as guinea pigs for research. However, after all of his sacrifices, he was still not even one step closer to finding the truth. But what if none of that mattered? People, puppets. What if there had never been any difference from the start? Nascal suddenly awoke. For months, he had been unable to sleep well, and that night had been particularly bad, something which he blamed on the emotion of being so close to finishing his work. Washing his face, he noticed how terrible he looked in the mirror. And what was a human being? What exactly? This formula. It emanates a different energy from the rest of this place. This formula.
You saved her! You really did! I will find a way to reward you, believe me.
Thank you. You freed him. This isn't much, but please, take it. It is my only possession.